So firstly, I want to congratulate the organization of this conference, and I want to appreciate uh, the organizers,
the organizers, the organizers, the
inviting
organizers, the
inviting
organizers, the organizers, the organizers, the organizers, the organizers, the
Can we
organizers,
control
the
the echo, please?
organizers.
All right. Thank you. I want to congratulate and I want to appreciate the organizers of this conference for inviting me. Especially, I want to appreciate the Dean of our faculty in person of Dr. Edward. And I want to appreciate the LOC members, especially the chairman, for inviting me. I also want to appreciate my mentor, Professor Abimbola Oluwatosin, that connected me with this conference. I want to say a big thank you to all of you, and I'm not taking the grace for granted at all. I also want to welcome all the participants to this conference, and I want to say that this is big for us in nursing, having this kind of a program to update ourselves with contemporary situations and knowledge in
Patience and
nursing.
knowledge, patience and 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 knowledge, patience and
Sorry,
knowledge,
can we control the
patience
echo, or is the echo from my side alone? All right, thank you. So I want to welcome the participants, and I want us to see this conference as an all-important one. I don't want us to see it as one of those conferences that we attend, and then after the conference, you are asked what are the take home for you? And you are just saying, oh, it was fantastic. Fantastic is not the take home. So I want us to, relax and get one or two things. If it's only one or two takeaway points that we can take home, it will be very nice and it will be very important. Thank you very much. So I just have limited time, and we just want to look at the topic, new innovations in literature review. Just let me correct the person that introduced me, that I'm not Akinwande, but I am Akinwa Are. Okay, thank you very much. All right, so by way of introduction, okay. Sorry, can you view my slides from that end? Trying to, okay. Okay, good. So this presentation have the following objectives. At the end of this presentation, all of us as participants should be able to write a good summary of existing literature and the article concisely. We should be able to search for scholarly articles for literature review. We should be able to identify elements of a good literature review. We should be able to identify do's and don'ts of writing a literature review. And lastly, we should be able to explain common challenges of writing a literature review. So by way of introduction, I say the life of an academic. Okay? The life of an academic is full of reading and writing. Now, in this gathering this morning, we are all nurses. But I was listening to, I think, the national chairman of NAM, sometimes when we're doing, is it the Nurses Week, on the national television. And then she was asked, what do we do as nurses and midwives? And, I was happy with her presentation. But then, nurses, we are not just about giving care. We are not just about giving injection. We are not all nurse practitioners. So in nursing, we have nurse practitioners, we have nurse researchers, we have nurse educators and academics. But most importantly, the academic part all we have to do is reading and writing. Reading and writing is paramount to, to our job, to what we do. And if I may ask the audience here this morning, which one is easier, reading or writing? I want to hear you. Just shout, I will hear you from here. Which one is easier, reading or writing?
Writing.
I want a feedback.
Writing.
Reading or writing, which one is easier?
The students say writing.
All right. All right. I'm sure some people will say reading. And I'm sure some people will say writing. Now, if you look at this pair of glasses that I put here, you'll find out that many of us, I can even see people online, many of us find ourselves using this pair of glasses. Why? Because we have to read a lot, especially this time around that we need to read most of the time on our devices, on our laptops, on our iPads, on our phones, and all of that. And the side effect of all these is also that at a point in time, we all have to get a pair of glasses, and we need to do it when it's important, because we have to continue to read and to write. So what is literature review? When we talk about literature review, we're talking about getting relevant and timely information. What type of information? Scholarly information. And when we continue, we are going to, look at what type of information we are talking about. But, under a broad umbrella, when we talk about literature review, we are talking about, we want to get relevant and timely and current information. It's also a way of synthesizing this information into a cohesive summary. And I have to bolden that summary because as we go on, we are going to see the importance of that summary. It is also a way of contextualizing whatever information that we have gotten. So when we get relevant, timely, current information, there is need for us to synthesize this information into a cohesive summary. And there is also, and most times when we are writing, after you have written and you have talked about, this happened in the United States of America, this happened in developed countries. If you have not contextualized it and bring it down to, sub-Saharan Africa and Nigeria, it means you are not yet talking to us in those parts of the world. And that is why most of the time when we are writing literature review, you have to contextualize it as to what is obtainable in Nigeria, or what is obtainable in Africa, or what is obtainable in Ondo State. So most of the time, don't forget, when you are writing a literature review, it must be contextualized into, our local application. Another thing is literature review. What is it about? Literature review is also about identifying knowledge gap, as well as identify research gap. If I were to be there physically, I would have liked one or two people to differentiate for me between knowledge gap and research gap. All right, so when we talk about knowledge gap versus research gap, what exactly do we mean? When we're talking about knowledge gap, we are saying that there is a lack of particular information that is needed. Okay, so for example, I want to write on breast cancer. What about breast cancer? Okay, so I want to write about psychosocial support for, people that are living with breast cancer. So if I want to look at knowledge gap, what exactly is information about psychosocial life of people living with breast cancer that is lacking. What is it that we don't know about this topic? That is the knowledge gap. But when we talk about research gap, which is like a subset of knowledge gap, research gap is talking about, okay, this information that is lacking, how can we address it through a systematic inquiry? That is research gap. So you find your research gap after you have identified a knowledge gap. All right? So when we are not talking about knowledge gap, how do you identify knowledge gap? You have to read. You have to read. But you also have to take note that when you are reading and you are using a focused approach to read. Not just reading anything. Not just reading whatever information you get online. You must be focused. And that is where literature review comes in. What exactly do you have in mind? So that when you are reading with a particular, with a particular purpose in mind. So it has to be used, you have to use a focused approach in reading, and that is very important. And also, when you are reading, how can you get, good academic or scholarly articles or information? I mean, when I joined Professor Ogunfowokun briefly when she was giving a keynote address before I left the meeting briefly, I heard her talking about innovations. This 21st century, we are all talking about innovations, new things. Yeah. And in fact, whatever research or whatever writing you are doing right now, if it's not innovative, then it's not likely to be relevant. And we are all going technological way. What are the innovations? What are the technological innovations? All right. So talking about using technological innovations and having at the back of our mind that we have a purpose. We have a reason why we want to do this literature review. There are so many search engines and databases that we can use. And this is the list of some of them. This is not all of them, but this is just example of search engines and databases that we can use to get good articles to read, articles that have been reviewed, that can give us, that can give us reliable information. All right, many of us, we still use Google. Like I tell people, there are so many things on Google that we also know that it is not correct. You and I will know it. So as a scholar, as an academic, as a researcher, as a practitioner, if you're looking for reliable information, you also need to go to reliable source. And these are the reliable sources through which you can get reliable scholar information. However, this is the time of technology, and we all talk about AI, using AI. Yes, good. There are so many lectures now on AI in research, how to use AI in nursing, how to use AI this, how to use AI that. Yes, we also use AI in literature review. And there are so many AI tools that are being used. But let me tell us this. AI tools are not search engines. AI tools are not search engines. So when you talk about AI tools, you're talking about data flow. But when you talk about search engines, we are talking about databases. Meaning that when you use search engines and you get to databases, these are verified information. You get verified information from databases. But when you use AI, you just get data flow, which needs to be analyzed again before it can become a verified information. I hope we are getting it. So it's very important that we know that AI tools are different from search engines. Not that AIs are not useful, just like I said, it is the way to go for all of us now. Example of this AI, ChatGPT, Quillbot, We have so many of them. Yes, we use them. But when you use them, the information you get on AI tools, they are data flow. They need to be analyzed for it to become verified information. Very important. All right. So talking about literature review, what is actually the heartbeat, the heart of literature review, the crux of the literature review? What is the most important thing about this literature review that we are talking about? When we talk about literature review, we're talking about summary. Summarizing is presenting to the reader the most important points of an article in your own words. And that is where the work comes in. That's where the task comes in. When we all did summary, at our basic secondary school, blah, blah, blah. We all knew how easy it was to summarize. So when you come to literature review, we need to apply that knowledge here. You need to summarize, remember most important points. Remember, we talked about focus approach. So it also has to be most important points that you are summarizing, and you have to summarize them in your own words. But before you start writing, one, you must identify your research gap. What is the knowledge information? What is the knowledge gap that I want to bridge by carrying out this research? That is the research gap. So you need to identify that. You need to identify your variables. What exactly do I want to read or to write about? Not breast cancer. Breast cancer is so wide. What aspect of breast cancer? Is it the psychosocial aspect? Is it the clinical aspect? Is it the quality of life aspect? So many aspects. So you need to identify what exactly are the variables you are dealing with. And just like I said, you need to read thoroughly, widely, for you to be able to write a good literature review. And if possible, you can develop what I call literature matrix. That is, as you are reading the article, you have somewhere where you put down, oh, I read this article. Who is the author of the article? This article is written by Margaret Akiware. What year? What was the year of publication? 2023. What was the most important findings of that article? Okay, the most important findings in that article is 1, 2, 3. I list them. If you do all of that for the articles that you are reading, when you need to read about a particular point, you will be able to easily identify which author talked about this variable. Which author talked about this? Oh, this author, our main findings are 1, 2, 3. Okay, so she talked about this. So if I need to write about this, now let me go back to our work. All right? Because when you are also searching online, for example, if you go online now and you search for quality of life of women living with cancer, you're going to have thousands of articles. But when you identify the ones that are relevant to, your research question or the topic you are writing on, then you need to develop this literature matrix so that you can go back to which one are actually relevant to whatever you are writing at a particular point in time. So when we are talking about summarizing for literature review, remember purpose. Very important. You must have a purpose at heart. You must have a particular thing you are looking for. So summaries should be tailored towards a purpose, usually to either illustrate, to support, or to consolidate your own narrative. What are you narrating? Which story are you telling? Okay, so this story you are telling, what are the articles, what are the pre-existing work that have talked about this topic? What are the literature that supports what you are looking for? What are the literature that consolidates, oh, this is the point I actually want to make. This literature is consolidating it. This is supporting it. This is illustrating it better. So summary is tailoring, whatever you are reading to a purpose. And they may exemplify a perspective. It might be that you are talking about a perspective. You might be talking about a concept. You might be talking about a theory. You might be talking about, findings that is relevant to your study or that is relevant to whatever you are writing. They may also serve as examples or counter examples in when you are writing discussion. And that is the essence of that literature matrix that I'm talking about. When you are writing, especially for researchers, for nurse researchers, when you get to your discussion, you will find out that you need to discuss your findings. If you have your literature matrix, you now go back to it. You now look at which author have already found out something that you are finding out in the new study. And so you can quickly pinpoint this author talked about this. So I can use this, to support my findings. Oh, I can use this to either illustrate. I can use this to say, okay, this is not the same as this. So it makes life easy when you have your literature matrix, when you get to your discussion section of your research, and you have to discuss, using a discussion of the convergent and divergent findings. So when writing a summary, what are the things you need to put in mind? Very, very important. Number one, you must be clear about your point that you are trying to illustrate. And this clarity about this point you want to argue out must be what will help you to decide what to conclude or to leave out. It's not everything you read that you need. You need to filter. And what will help you to filter the information you are getting is for you to have a clarity, a clear cutout of what exactly point you are looking for. All right? Then, when you are writing a summary, it's very important that you are able to paraphrase. Remember, we are saying that when you are writing literature review, you are summarizing information, in your own words. What you don't understand, you cannot write in your own words. So when you paraphrase, that is, you want to convey an argument or a data accuracy succinctly in your own words. Very important. And when you are doing this, it will be very important you use what we call topic sentence to start your paragraph. As we go on, we are going to talk more about this topic sentence. It is very important when you are writing. You must have at the back of your mind, you must have a topic. When you are writing, please be intentional not to copy and paste. And that is why you need to write in your own words. Be intentional about it, that you are not doing copying and paste. So when we talk about topic sentence, what does it mean? It means that your writing, there must be a coherence and there must be cohesion. So the subtopic sentence to every paragraph is the first statement. And that first statement is the point you want to write about in that paragraph. All right? So in that paragraph, I want to write about spousal support. Of course, I'm writing about quality of life for women that live with breast cancer. But an aspect of it that I want to write in paragraph 1 is talking about spousal support. So you will have to write the first statement that talks about what exactly you want to discuss in that paragraph. Your paragraph must not be dealing with 2-3 ideas. One idea per one paragraph. And you will introduce that paragraph by writing your topic sentence. After you have written what exactly the point you want to make in that paragraph, then you introduce evidence from the articles that you have read. Okay, which author supports what that statement that you have made? Which author counter that statement you have written at the first one? That is introducing the evidence and giving examples of the evidence. And when you have done that, you now want to discuss further. This is the point I want to talk about. this is what somebody said. For example, this person said this, then you now discuss it further. That is how to write paragraph, and this is what we call logical flow when you are writing literature review. When you are writing literature review, your paragraph 1 must be linked with paragraph 2, must link with paragraph 3. And each paragraph must have discussed only one idea, which is introduced by using your topic sentence. So let's see this for example. All right. The topic sentence in this paragraph is that early exposure to infection, malnutrition, and environment may increase the risk of non-communicable diseases in low-income countries. So that is the idea for that paragraph. That is the only thing you want to discuss in that paragraph. Now, you now want to provide evidence. You now say, according to a study, for the Royal blah, 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 like that, by URADA 2016, such blah, blah may be an additional. You write that. That is an evidence that supports your narrative. And then you continue writing like that. And then when you are finished, you need to conclude that paragraph by now making a conclusion. So you are now saying that, as can be seen, URANDA's analysis strongly supports, this approach focusing on the effect of early exposure to this. So you are making so each paragraph must have introduction, which is your topic sentence, must show your evidence that supports or counter supports. You must conclude that paragraph by a statement, and then you move to the next paragraph. Remember, the last statement of your paragraph will introduce the next paragraph, the next topic sentence you are going to write in the next paragraph. So when we talk about paragraphs, this is the art of narrative structure. The way you structure your paragraph when you are writing your literature review is very important. Remember, this is the basic unit of whatever you are writing. Just like we will say, family is the basic unit of the society. So when we put families together, eventually we have a society. The same thing, when we put paragraphs together, then we have literature review. All right? So this paragraph that is the basic unit, you must learn how to write a concise, narrative paragraph that links to another. Not that one paragraph is standing all alone, and then you just come and introduce another thing with the second paragraph. It must flow into, one another. So your narrative must have the beginning, it must have the middle, and it must have a conclusion, which is the end. And just like the earlier slide that I showed, so the introduction, which is the topic sentence, is the beginning. The middle is the evidence. And then the end of it is a discussion where you now conclude what exactly the points you are making in that paragraph. So it is a chain of meaning, and they should be interconnected and flow into each other and follow each other. All right? So when you want to start writing your paragraphs or your literature review, there are things that are very important. Number one, critical thinking. You need to think. And this goes in cycle. All right? You think about what you want to write. You write. You edit it. By editing, you still go ahead and polish it. For example, there are grammatical errors, there are this and that. You polish it. And after polishing it, you still look at it and think about it again. This thing I have written, does it actually make sense? And that is why most of us academics, when we are writing, it happens to us most times. You have written, a paper, And after a day that you have slept on it, you take that paper again, you read again, you say, excuse me, am I the one that wrote this one yesterday? Was I actually sleeping while writing this? Did I actually write this? Why? Because you have taken time to think over it. Okay? You have taken time to think over it again. But if you don't have time to think over what you have written, you find out that after submitting such piece, and they are now pointing it out, you might even be blaming yourself. Excuse me, did I actually write this? It's because you did not think about it after you have written it. So when we are writing literature review, we must take time to think about each paragraph, write about it, edit it, polish it. When you have polished it, take time to think over it again. And that makes us to have a better and clearer meaning of what we have written. So when we are writing each paragraph for this literature review, what are the do's? What are the things that we need to do? Number one, you must start a new paragraph to introduce a new idea. Just one. Don't put 2, 3 ideas in one paragraph. And you just start by introducing that new idea. Then you must be sure to express the main idea clearly at the beginning of that paragraph in form of topic sentence that we have talked about. Then you back up your new ideas with references. And that is the evidence that we have talked about. Okay? And then you also should not forget to present your own thoughts. You have read about this. This is what the evidence says. But you, what is now your thought? What is your stand? What is your judgment? After you have read this, after you have introduced the topic sentence, you have talked about the evidence. So where do you stand? That is the conclusion. Meaning your voice must be heard. We must read your voice in what you write. And that conclusion part is your voice. That is where you stand in this argument, in this narrative. So that is very important. Then you need to highlight relevant ideas by going into more depth, and you might need to spend more time on this. After you have written, you might need to highlight what are the relevant. After you have read, you have a piece of article to read. After you have read it, you need to highlight relevant ideas. And then when you have, read the relevant ideas, you also write. After you have written, you also need to see what are the relevant ideas I've presented in this paragraph. It's very important. Then if you have time or you have somebody, a colleague, at times you can do it even with your children. What you have written, read it out loud. Read it out to somebody. You find out that when you are reading at times loud what you have written, then you realize your mistake. Because most of the time when we are writing, okay, our hands may be faster than our thoughts. So at times we might write what we don't mean. And in writing, it is an offense for you to write what you don't mean. You must write what you mean. When you read some people's work and you're now saying, oh, I can't find this, I can't find it, they will now start to explain. Yeah, they know what they want to say, but they've not been able to put it down, to write it down. That is it. But most of the time after writing each paragraph, if you have opportunity of reading it loud, or out loud, either to a colleague or even at times to yourself or to your children, you will realize the errors in what you have written, and you can quickly correct it before you submit. Then you must pay attention to transition into and out of your paragraph by the use of connectors. This use of connectors is very important because that is what links one paragraph to the other. And there must be, a good transition from one, and that's what makes your literature review to flow. It gives it that anybody reading it wants to continue to read it. It makes it interesting, and people want to read what you have written. All right. So You also need to avoid some things when you are writing. Number one, avoid too long paragraphs. Avoid too long paragraphs. Some people can write one page, one paragraph, a page will be a paragraph throughout. No. Even for half of a page to be a paragraph is too long. So as much as possible, aim at having like 5 to 6 sentences in a paragraph. All right, that would be short enough to understand. Then you must also avoid not separated by a space. Separate one paragraph from another by a space. Then avoid more than one idea. I think we have stressed on that more importantly. Then the main point is left to the end and or no topic sentence. So your most important point, the conclusion of that paragraph, okay, you don't leave it to the end of the paragraph. You must introduce the main idea as the topic sentence, what you want to discuss. Then you must also avoid no beginning, no middle, no end, no clear logic. We don't even know what you are talking about. You must avoid that. Then you must also avoid lack of engagement with literature or no reference. Some people can write a whole page without reference. And it's not their own work, and they are quoting some people's work, but then no reference, a whole paragraph. The evidence you are producing, the evidence you are using to support or to clarify your narrative must be referenced. So in other words, each paragraph, you must have a reference. So you must avoid not, putting or not referencing your evidence. All right. Then you must avoid lack of transition or no flow or continuity. That must be avoided. Then what are the common writing challenges? When you are writing your literature review, what are the common challenges that we have? Number one is the use of connectors. All right. Connectors, these are transition words. These are used to connect one paragraph to the other. Then it gives continuity, it gives coherence to your arguments, to your points. All right. So let's look at example of those connectors include therefore, thus, however, nevertheless, in contrast, indeed, in addition, consequently, similarly, moreover, conversely, and so on and so forth, depending on what you are writing. Okay, so you've been writing and you want to present a contrary opinion. Then you say conversely. Okay, you say conversely. Or the first paragraph, you are writing a point on this, and the next paragraph you want to write about the aftermath effect of not doing that. Then you say consequently. All right, you are writing a paragraph and the next paragraph is just to continue the point you are writing in paragraph 1. Then you say in addition, and so on and so forth. So we need to learn the use of these connectors properly. They can help you to connect ideas. They can help you to reinforce a point, okay? And they can also help you to highlight a contrast, just like I used the word conversely, okay? They are also useful to link paragraphs. But remember, the paragraphs don't follow logically, must follow logically from one to another. All right. So this is very important. And, the linking phases might not really help. But if you use appropriate connector, it will link one paragraph to the other. And it gives your workflow and it makes it interesting to your readers. Then another challenge is the topic sentence that we have talked about. So not using a topic sentence is a challenge. And you need to use this as a unifying force, okay, in the meaning of what you are writing in each paragraph. And remember, one idea, one paragraph. All right. So, for example, look at this paragraph. In this paragraph, you will find out that there are two ideas and the topic sentence is wrong. Okay, so for example, this paragraph is saying decisions to access services and availability of funds at household level are determinants of timely earth-seeking behavior. Says Shestra in Nepal conducted a cross-sectional study and found out blah, 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 like that. That's exactly what he found out. So the study has shown that both men and women view men as the core person to make an opinion on resources available, even in cases where women might have contributed the resources. In this paragraph, there are two ideas, and the topic sentence is not showing the main idea that the writer had in mind to present. Now, this is a better version of that paragraph. And you can see this is fewer in words, okay, better to understand. And at a glance, you can say, oh, okay. So what this person is saying in this paragraph is that women as well as men consider the man to be the core person to give an opinion on the use of household resources, even in cases where women might have contributed the resources. That is it. That is the main thing that the main idea that the reader is presenting in that paragraph. So using of, topic sentence to summarize the idea and to make sure that you don't put, in fact, some people will put like 3-4 ideas in one paragraph. So at the end of the day, you read, you say, oh, so what are we saying in this paragraph? All right. So it is very important that we take note of that. Okay. So another challenge common challenge while writing is also the use of wrong punctuation. So if you look at this paragraph left, I put left and right, you can compare the two. You will see that there are places that you must not use semicolon when you are meant to use comma. It makes a lot of difference when you are reading. When you are writing, you may not pay particular attention to it. All right. But by the time you finish writing and you read it, you find out that it can give another meaning entirely to the paragraph if you don't put the right punctuation. And, we are talking about new innovations. One of the innovations that also help us in writing and correcting our punctuation now is Grammarly. So as many of you that can use Grammarly, find out that it helps a lot to correct your grammar and also correct your punctuation. Okay, so what is another challenge I want to talk about is unnecessary complex and technical language. Most of the time we want to say everything, in our mind, and it becomes so complex. Whatever idea, narrative that we are writing, we must write it in such a way that it is so simple for people to comprehend, that we don't use so many technical language. Of course, that all scientific disciplines, we all use technical terms. We need to understand and discuss them, but we need to use them correctly. It must not be so complex. Your colleagues may not even understand the technical language used in your discipline. So this is why now the paper you are writing, if, for example, you are a medical surgical nursing, by the time they will give that paper to a reviewer, the reviewer might be in maternal and child death nursing. So that person is your colleague, but you are not in the same specialty. So the person might not understand the technical language you use in your specialty. Okay, so that is why you need not to use so many technical terms, technical language, because your reader might not understand. And even you, if you want to read a piece and you are reading, you don't understand, what happens? You just discard that. And that might actually be the paper that you need. So when you are writing also, as much as possible, avoid the use of unnecessary complex and technical language. Then another one is your sentence structure and clarity is another challenge. When you are writing, your sentences should be structured so that the meaning is very clear. It must not be ambiguous at all. No big words. All right? It must be structured so that we can actually understand what exactly you're talking about. Make sure that your sentence have a subject, a verb, and a verb at the beginning. You must have the subject you are talking about. This is what you are talking about. Make it so clear. We have talked about use of punctuation. Use it strategically for clarity. If you don't put a comma, where you are meant to put it, it can distort the meaning of a whole paragraph. Okay? Then avoid using too many qualifying phrases. Too many. You want to qualify what you have written before. So you need to make another sentence. No. Just make it as simple as possible so that your readers can understand. Now, when you are writing your literature review, you also need to avoid what we call shopping lists. So why we say shopping list, what do we mean? Some of us, especially women, when we want to go for shopping, we know how we make our lists. We just make our list. I'm going to buy soap, water, food, rice, this and that. We just make the list. That's how some people write their paragraph. When you are writing, you don't just make a list. You don't just do what we call shopping list. All right? Doing successive one paragraph summaries detached from any narrative as if you are in a shopping list. Paragraph 1 must flow into paragraph 2. That is what we are saying. Each paragraph must not be standing alone. That is what we refer to as the shopping list. So you must avoid that as much as possible. Then you must avoid using vague and uninformative topic sentence. Okay, so you want to write and you now say, for example, which is very common when we are writing, another study carried out in Uganda by Upendi Kiniko. You have not said anything. That's very vague. Okay, or you are saying non-communicable disease has been defined in a variety of ways. What do you mean by that? Which varieties of ways? Who and who have defined it? How did they define it? Okay, so for example, the first one, you want to give information about that study. So you need to tell us this study that was carried out in Uganda among pregnant women. Who are these? You are, registered in blah, blah. You need to give us information. So you don't just say another study carried out. No. Give us information about the population, okay, of that study, the sample size, because all those points help us to also know and support our own narratives and our own points. All right? Then you need to avoid irrelevancies. And that is why earlier when I started, we were talking about reading. When you are reading using a focused approach, you must also write using a focused approach. So you must avoid including details that are not relevant to your argument. Let me cite an example. Some people will be writing literature review, and in one paragraph, they will give detailed findings of a study. So they are writing about, okay, according to another study that was conducted in Uganda among pregnant women who were attending antenatal clinic, the sample, the author described about 200 and clinical of them. And then the study, found out that 89% of them are married. This also percent are, that's not relevant to what. So you don't give details. You don't give details of other studies that are not relevant to what you want to discuss. You only need to pick the aspects of that work that is relevant. Then you must avoid failure to introduce your point. You know, I mentioned this earlier. So when you are talking about a previous study, you need to mention the person's name, type of study, you know, you need to mention few things, but not going into details. Okay? That is not relevant, that will now become not relevant. So this is actually very tasking, and I won't say very difficult, but if you have been doing it over a long time, you get used to it. So you must be able to demarcate, when I'm writing, where do I stop, okay, citing an existing literature? What exactly do I need to write about it? What you need to write about previous literature to support your own work is what is relevant
Recording
to
stopped.
in that study. Not just everything about that. You don't need to tell us everything about that study. What aspect of it, what finding of that study is relevant to the point you are discussing? That is all that you need. Then despite the fact that we have said that you should write so much, write this, write that, we must avoid twisting the author's data or arguments. Some people, what an author did not say, they will say the author said it, because they are looking for something to just support their own work. So I have seen somebody has written somebody's a statement before and put not, you know, the person put not. When I now said, but this study that you quoted is not saying not. And I said, no, it's a mistake. It's actually saying not. Put not. You know, you have distorted the opinion or the findings of that study. You must never do that. It's whatever an author says that you must say the author said. Don't distort, don't twist the author's data or argument to serve as, you know, a support or to illustrate or to clarify your own point. You must avoid that as much as possible. So, in conclusion, a good summary must drive your narrative forward. Forward is very key. So good summary, one leads to another. You are going forward. All right? Then you must avoid shopping list syndrome. Make your voice known. Let your voice be heard by what you are. You are not reporting what other people are saying. Yes, you are using what other people said as evidence, but what is now your own stand? What is your argument? What is your own take about what that person said? That is your voice. All right. Then also remember that paragraph should have a beginning, which is the topic sentence, must have the middle, which is the summary of the articles, including all the evidence. Then must have an end, the conclusion. And this must have a link to the next paragraph. And it's also important that you are mindful of the use of connectors and punctuations while writing. And this is my last word. Learn to write by writing. You see, some of us, we have attended so many workshops, so many seminars, conferences on how to write. This is how to write this. This is how to write manuscripts. This is how to write literature review. This is how to write this. You can only learn to write by writing. If you are listening to it and you are not writing, you cannot learn, you cannot know how to write. So learn to write by writing. These are my resources, and I want to say thank you very much for listening.
Can we please appreciate us?
Hello?
Thank you very much for your presentation, ma.
Hello, can you still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello?
Can we see your face?
We want to see your face.
Can you hear me? You need to unmute.
We can hear you
unmute
clearly.
if you are talking so that I can hear you from the other end.
We can hear you, ma.
Oh, thank you very much. But people that are there physically, can they hear me? If they are talking, you need to unmute so that I can hear. If you are talking from Ondo, please unmute so that I can hear you. You are still muted, so I can't hear anything from that end. Okay. Hello? Unimed, can you unmute so that we can hear you?
Can we see your face now? Can we see your face now?
Did you hear me throughout the presentation? Unimed, you have muted your mic again. Please unmute. Please mute. 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 Please mute.
Hello, can you hear me, ma?
Okay, I can hear you now.
I can hear you now. I can hear you now. I can hear you now. I can hear you now. I can hear you now. I can hear you now. I can hear you now.
Kí lẹ fẹ́ kó ṣe báyìí? Ẹ ìfẹ́ rójú ẹ̀. Ẹ jọ wọ́n ní kàn mute kàn lè bá wọn sọ̀rọ̀. And that let's. She has left. Dr. Akiware, can you hear me, ma? Hello, ma. Can you hear me? Dr. Akiware.
I can hear you now. I can hear you now.
Okay. Thank you very much for your presentation. We sincerely appreciate your input. But the house said they want to see your face. They want to see your face. They want to see you come online. Can you please do that for us? Hello?
Hello? Hello?
Hello, ma?
Can you see my face now?
Not yet.
Hello? Hello?
Hello, ma?
My video is on.
Okay, okay.
So can you
Give us
see
a few
now?
minutes to connect you. Ibi tí fídíò wọn wà yẹn kọ́ ni ó fún wa.
My face is here.
We have seen your beautiful face.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. But were you able to hear me? Did you hear me clearly throughout the presentation?
Very well. Very, very well. And we appreciate it.
Thank God. Thank God. That's the most important thing. Thank you so much. So, any question?
Professor Luwatosin says she's proud of you.
My mama is there.
Yes.
What did you say, Professor Luwatosin said? So, do we have questions?
So, please, we are seriously far behind the schedule time. Are we good to continue? All right, we have had a very beautiful lecture on literature and its review, and it's well delivered, innovative lecture. So we want to continue, and what we have here is quality nursing care. I want you to agree with me that if you take care from nursing, any other thing remaining, nothing without nursing without caring. So we want to look at how can we now have good quality nursing care. And the person that will do justice to that is our home mother, Mrs. Ajetomobi. Can we please put our hands together for her? Let's bring her here. Can we appreciate her once more? You're welcome, ma.